Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel called World of Reading. Today we'll be reading chapter 5 of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. I know I said chapter 5 in the last video, but in this video we are doing part 2 of chapter 5. As I haven't read the whole chapter, I have read the half of it, so I'm going to read the full of the chapter. He grinned at Harry's amazement. They stepped through the archway. Harry looked quickly over his shoulder and saw the archway shrink instantly back into solid wall. The sun shone brightly on a stack of cauldrons outside the nearest shop. Cauldrons, all sizes, copper, brass, pewter, silver, self-steering, collapsible, said a sign hanging over them. Yeah, you'll be needing one, said Hagrid. But we're gonna get your money first. Harry wished he had about 8 more eyes. He turned his head in every direction as they walked up the street, trying to look at everything at once. The shops, the things outside them, the people doing the shopping. A plump woman outside an apothecary's was shaking her head as they passed, saying, "Dragon's liver, 16 sickles an ounce. They're mad." A low, soft hooting came from a dark shop with a sign saying, "Elops Al Emporium." Tony, Screech, Barn, Brown, and Snowy. Several boys of about Harry's age had their nose pressed against a window with broomsticks in it. "Look!" Harry heard one of them say. "The new Nimbus 2000! Heard one of them, fast as ever." There were 2 shops selling robes, shops selling telescopes and strange silver instruments Harry had never seen before. Windows stacked with barrels of bat spleens, and the eel's eyes, tottering piles of spellbooks. Quills and rolls of parchment, potion bottles, globes of the moon. "Gringotts," said Hagrid. They had reached a snowy white building, which towered over the 2 little shops. Standing beside it, burnished bronze doors, wearing a uniform of scarlet and gold. "Yeah, that's a goblin," said Hagrid quietly as they walked up the white stone steps towards him. The goblin was about a head shorter than Harry. He had a swarthy, clever face, a pointed beard, and Harry noticed very long fingers and feet. He bowed as they walked inside. Now they were facing a second pair of doors, silver this time, with words engraved upon them. "Enter, stranger, but take heed of what waits the sin of greed. For those who take but do not earn must pay most dearly in their return. So if you seek beneath our floors a treasure that was never yours, thief, you have been warned, beware of finding more than treasure there." "Like I said, you'll be mad to try and rob it," said Hagrid. A pair of goblins bowed them through the silver doors, and they were in a vast marble hall. About 100 more goblins were sitting on high stools behind a long counter, scribbling in large ledgers, weighing coins on brass scales, examining precious stones through eyeglasses. There were too many precious stones for eyeglasses. Oh, sorry. There were too many doors to count leading off the hall. More goblins were showing more people in and out of these. Sorry. Hagrid and Harry made for the counter. "Morning," said Hagrid to a free goblin. "We've come to take some money out of Miss the Harry Potter safe. You've got his key, sir? Got it here somewhere, said Hagrid as he started emptying his pockets on the counter, scattering a handful of mouldy dog biscuits over the goblin's book of numbers. The goblin wrinkled his nose. Harry watched the goblin on the right weighing a pile of rubies as big as glowing coals. Got it, yes, said Hagrid at last, holding up a tiny golden key. The goblin looked at it closely. That seems to be an order. And I've also got a letter here from Professor Dumbledore, said Hagrid importantly, throwing out his chest. It's about the you know what in Vault 713. The goblin read the letter carefully. Very well, he said, handing it back to Hagrid. I'll have someone take you down to the both vaults. Grip Hook! Grip Hook was yet another goblin. Once Hagrid had crumbled all the dog biscuits back inside his pockets, he and Harry followed Grip Hook towards one of the doors leading off the hall. What do you know who in Vault 713? Can't tell you that, said Hagrid mysteriously. Very secret, Hogwarts business. Dumbledore's trusted me. More's my job worth to tell you that. Griphook pulled the door open for them. Harry, who had accepted more marble, was surprised. There was a there were in a narrow stone passage, lit with flaming torches. It sloped steeply downwards, and there was a little railway track on the floor. Griphook whistled, and a small cart came hurtling up the tracks towards them. They climbed in, Hagrid with some difficulty, and were off. At first, they just hurtled through a maze of twisting passages. Harry tried to remember left, right, left, middle, fork, right, left, but it was impossible. The rattling cart seemed to know its own way, because Griphook wasn't steering. Harry's eyes stung as the cold air rushed past them, but he kept them wide open. Once thought he saw a burst of fire at the end of a passage, and twisted around to see if it was a dragon. But too late. They plunged even deeper, passing an underground lake where huge stalactites and stalagmites grew from the ceiling and floor. I never know, Harry called to Hagrid over the noise of the car. What's the difference between a stalagmite and a stalactite? Stalactite. Stalagmite's got an M in it, said Hagrid. And don't ask me questions for now. I think I'm gonna be sick. He did look um uh, he did look very green, and when the car stopped at last beside a small door in the passage wall, Hagrid got out and had to lean against had to lean against the wall to stop his knees trembling. Griphook unlocked the door. A lot of green smoke came billowing out as it cleared, Harry gasped. Sorry. Um, Harry gasped. Inside were mounds of gold coins, columns of silver, heaps of little bronze nuts. All yours, smiled Hagrid. All Harry's? It was incredible. The Dursleys couldn't have known about this, or they had it from him faster than blinking. How often they had been complaining how much Harry cost them to keep, and all the time there had been a small fortune belonging to him, buried deep under London. Harry piled some of it into a bag. The gold ones are galleons, he explained. 17 silver sickles to a galleon, and 29 nuts to a sickle. It's easy enough. Right, that should be enough for a couple of terms. We'll keep the rest safe for ya. He turned to Griphook. Vault 713 now, please. And can we go more slowly? One speed only, said Griphook. They were even going deeper and gathering speed. The air became colder and colder as they hurtled around tight corners. They went rattling over an underground ravine, and Harry leaned over the side to try to see what was down at the dark bottom, but Hagrid groaned and pulled him back by the scruff of his neck. Vault 713 had no keyhole. Stand back, said Griphook importantly. He stroked the door gently with one of his long fingers, and it simply melted away. If anyone but Grinton's goblin tried that, they'll be sucked through the door and trapped in there, said Griphook. How often do you check if to see if anyone's inside? Harry asked. About once every 10 years, said Griphook with a rather nasty grin. Something really extraordinary had to be inside this top security vault. Harry was sure, and he leaned forward eagerly, expecting to see a famous jewels at the very least. But at first he thought it was empty. Then he noticed a grubby little package wrapped up in brown paper lying on the floor. Hagrid picked it up and tucked it deep inside his coat. Harry longed to know what it was, but knew better than to ask. Come on, back in this infernal car, and don't talk to me on the way back. It's best if I keep me mouth shut, said Hagrid. One wild car ride later, they stood blinking in the sunlight outside Gringotts. Harry didn't know where to run first now that he had a bag full of money. He hadn't know how many galleons there was a pound there were to a pound. To know that he was holding more money than he had in his whole life, more money than even Dudley had ever had. Might as well get your uniform, said Hagrid, nodding towards Madame Malkin's robes for all occasions. Listen, Harry, would you mind if I slipped off to pick up me in the leaky cauldron? I hate them Gringotts carts. He did still look a bit sick, so Harry entered Madame Malkin's shop alone, feeling nervous. Madame Malkin was a squat, smiling witch, dressed in all in mauve. Hogwarts, dear, she said when Harry started to speak. Got the lot here. Another young man being fitted up just now. In fact, in the top of the shop, a boy with a pale, pointed face was standing on a footstool while a second witch pinned up his long black robes. Madame Malkin stood Harry on a stool next to him, slipped a long robe over his head, and began to pin it to his uh, right length. "Hello," said the boy. "Hogwarts too?" Yes," said Harry. "My father's next door, buying me my books, and mother's up the street looking at once," said the boy. He had a bored, drawling voice. "Then I'm going to drag them off to look at racing brooms. I don't see why you first years can't have their own. I think I'll bully father into getting me one, and I'll smuggle it in somehow." Harry was strongly reminded of Dudley. "Have you got your own broom?" the boy went on. "No," said Harry. "Play Quidditch at all?" "No," Harry said again, wondering what on earth Quidditch could be. "I do. Father says it's a crime if I'm not picked to play in my house, and I must say, I agree. Know what house you'll be in yet?" "No," said Harry, feeling more stupid by the minute. "Well, no one really knows until they get there, do they? But I know I'll be in Slytherin. All our family have been. Imagine being Hufflepuff. I think I'll leave. Wouldn't you?" Said Harry, wishing he could say a bit more interesting. "I say, look at that, man," said the boy, suddenly nodding towards the front window. Hagrid was standing there, grinning at Harry, and pointing at two large ice creams to show she couldn't come in. "That's Hagrid," said Harry, pleased to know something the boy didn't. "He walks at Hogwarts." "Oh," said the boy. I've heard of him. He's sort of a servant, isn't he? He's a gamekeeper, said Harry. He was liking the boy less and less every second. Yes, exactly. I heard he's sort of a savage. Lives in a hut in the school grounds, and every now and then he gets drunk, tries to do magic, and ends up setting fire to his bed. I think he's brilliant, said Harry coldly. Do you? Said the boy with a slight sneer. Why is he with you? Where are your parents? They're dead, said Harry shortly. He didn't feel much like going into the matter with this boy. Sorry, said the other, not sounding sorry at all. But they were our kind, weren't they? They were a witch and wizard, if that's what you mean. I really don't think they should let the other sort in, do you? They're not just the same. They've never been brought up to know our ways. Some of them have never even heard of Hogwarts until they get the letter. Imagine. I think they should keep it in the old Wizarding families. What's your surname anyway? Before Harry could answer, Madame Malkin said, That's you, done, my dear." And Harry, not sorry for an excuse to stop talking to a boy, hopped down from the footstool. "Well, I'll see you at Hogwarts, I suppose," said the drawling boy. Harry was rather quiet as he ate ice cream Hagrid had bought him, chocolate and raspberry with chopped nuts. "What's up?" said Hagrid. "Nothing," Harry lied. They stopped to buy parchment and quills. Harry cheered up a little when he found a bottle of ink that changed the colour as he wrote. When they had left the shop, he said, "Hagrid, what's Quidditch?" "Blimey, Harry! I keep forgetting how little you know. Not knowing Quidditch!" "Don't make me feel worse," said Harry. He told Harry Grid about a pale boy in Madame Malkin's. And he said people from Muggle families shouldn't even be allowed in. Yeah, not from a Muggle family. If you know who you are, you grow up knowing your name. If his parents are wait, wizarding folk. You saw him in the leaky cauldron. Anyway, what does he know about it? Some of the best I've ever saw were the only ones with magic in them, in a long line of muggles. Look at your mum. Look what she had for a sister. So what is Quidditch? It's our sport. Wizard sport. It's like football in the muggle world. Everyone follows Quidditch. Played up in the air on broomsticks, and there are four balls. Sort of hard to explain the rules. And what's a Slytherin and Hufflepuff? Schoolhouses. There's four. Everyone says Hufflepuff are a lot of duffers, but I bet I'm in Hufflepuff. Better Hufflepuff than Slytherin, said Hagrid darkly. There's not a single witch or wizard who went bad who wasn't in Slytherin. You know who was one? Well, sorry. You know who was at Hogwarts years and years ago. They bought Harry. Said Hagrid. They bought Harry's school book in a shop called Flourish. Oh, sorry, Flourish and Blutes, where the shelves were stacked to the ceiling with books as large as paving stones, bound in leather. Books the size of postage stamps in covers of silk. Books full of peculiar symbols and a few books with nothing in them at all. Even Dudley, who never read anything, would have been wild to get his hand on on some of these. Hagrid almost had to drag Harry away from the curses and counter curses. Bewitch your friends and befuddle your enemies with the latest revenges. Hair loss, jelly legs, tongue tying, and much, much more by Professor Vindictus Viridian. I was trying to find out how to curse Dudley. I'm not saying that's a good idea, but you're not to use magic in the Muggle world, except in a in a very special circumstances," said Hagrid. "And anyway, you couldn't work any of them curses yet. You'll need a lot more studying before you get to that level." Hagrid wouldn't let Harry buy a solid gold cauldron. Either it says pewter on your list. But they got a nice set of scales for weighing potions and ingredients, and a collapsible brass telescope. Then they visited the apothecaries, which was fascinating enough to make up for its horrible smell, a mixture of bad eggs and rotted cabbages. Barrels of slimy stuffed food on the floor, jars of herbs, dried roots, and bright powders lined the walls. Bundles of feathers, strings of fangs, snarled claws hung from the ceiling. While Hagrid asked the man behind the counter for a supply of some basic potion ingredients for Harry, Harry himself examined silver unicorn horns at 21 gallons each, and minuscule, glittery black beetle eyes, 5 knots a scoop. Outside the apothecaries, Hagrid checked Harry's list again. Just the one left. Oh yeah, and I still haven't got you your birthday present. Harry felt himself go red. You don't have to. I know. I don't have to. Tell you what, I'll get you an animal. Not a toad. Toads went out of fashion years ago. You'd be laughed at. And I don't like cats. They make me sneeze. I'll get you an owl. All the kids want owls. They're dead useful. Carry your purse and everything. 20 minutes later, they left Eolop's Owl Emporium, which had been dark and full of rustling and flickering jewel-bright eyes. Harry now carried a large cage which held up a beautiful snowy owl, fast asleep with her head under her wing. Harry couldn't stop stammering his thanks, sounding just like Professor Quirrell. Don't mention it, said Hagrid gruffly. Don't expect you've got a lot of presents from them Dudleys. Just Ollivanders left now. Only place for your ones, Ollivanders, and you got yourself the best one. A magic wand. This was what Harry had been really looking forward to. The last shop was narrow and shabby. Peeling gold letters over the door read Ollivanders, makers of fine wands since 382 BC. A single wand lay on a faded purple cushion in the dusty window. A tinkling bell rang somewhere in the depths of the show as they stepped inside. It was a tiny place, except empty except for a single springly chair which Hagrid had sat on to wait. Harry felt stranger as though he had entered a very strict library. He swallowed a lot of new questions which had just occurred to him and looked instead at the thousands of narrow boxes piled neatly right up to the ceiling. For some reason, the back of his neck prickled. The very dust and silence in here seemed to tingle with some secret magic. Good afternoon, said a soft voice. Harry jumped. Hagrid must have jumped too, because there was a loud crunching noise and he got off quickly of the spindly chair. An old man was standing before them, his wide, pale eyes shining like moons through the gloom of their shop. Hello, said Harry awkwardly. Ah, yes, said the man. Yes, yes. I thought I'd be seeing you soon, Harry Potter. It wasn't a question. You have your mother eyes. It seems only yesterday she was in here herself buying her first wand. 10¼ inches long, swishy, made of willow. Nice one for charm work. Mr. Ollivander moved closer to Harry. Harry wished he wouldn't blink. Those silver eyes were a bit creepy. Your father, on the hand, favoured a mahogany wand, 11 inches, pliable, a little bit more power, and excellent for transfiguration. Well, I say your father favoured it more. Favoured there. It's really the one that chooses the wizard, of course. Mr. Ollivander had come so close that he and Harry were almost nose to nose. Harry couldn't see himself reflected in those misty eyes. And that's where Mr. Ollivander touched the lightning scar on Harry's forehead with a long white finger. I'm so sorry to say I sold the one that did it, he said softly. 13½ inches, you. Powerful ones, very powerful, and in the wrong hands. Well, if I know that wand was going out in the world to do. He shook his head, and then, to Harry's relief, spotted Hagrid. Rubius! Rubius Hagrid! How nice to see you again. Oak, 16 inches, rather benty, wasn't it? It was, sir, yes, said Hagrid. Good one, that one. That one. But I suppose they snapped it in half when you got expelled, said Mr. Ollivander, suddenly stern. Yes, they did, yes, said Hagrid, shuffling his feet. I've still got the pieces, though, he added brightly. But you don't use them? Mr. Mr. Ollivander sharply. Oh, no, sir, said Hagrid quickly. Harry noticed gripped his pink umbrella very tightly as he spoke. Hmm, said Mr. Ollivander, giving Hagrid a piercing look. Well, oh, well now, Mr. Potter, let me see. He pulled a long tape measure with a silver speaking out of his pocket. Which is your wand arm? Well, I'm right-handed. Hold out your arm. That's it. He measured Harry from shoulder to finger, then wrist to elbow, shoulder to floor, knee to armpit, round his head. As he measured, he said, "Every Ollivander wand has a core of a powerful magical substance. We use unicorn hairs, phoenix tail feathers, and the heartstrings of dragons. No, two Ollivander wands are the same, just as no two unicorns, dragons, or phoenixes are quite the same. And of course, you will never get such good results with another wizard's wand." Harry suddenly realized that the tape measure, which had been measuring between his nostrils, was doing this on its own. Mr. Ollivander was flitting around the shelves, taking down boxes. "That will do," he said, and the tape measure crumpled onto the heap on the floor. "Right then, Mr. Potter, try this one. Beechwood and dragon heartstring, 9 inches, 9 and flexible. Just take it and give it away." Harry took the wand and waved it around a bit, but Mr. Ollivander snatched it out of his hand almost at once. "Maple and phoenix fever, 7 inches, quite whippy. Try." Harry tried, but he had hardly raised the wand when it too was snatched back by Mr. Ollivander. "No, no. Here, ebony and unicorn hair, 8.5 inches, fringy. Go on, try it." Harry tried and tried. He had no idea what Mr. Ollivander was waiting for. The pile of tried wands was mounting higher and higher on the spindly chair, but the more wands Mr. Ollivander pulled from the shelves, the happier he seemed to become. "Tricky customer, eh? Not to worry, we'll find a perfect match here somewhere. I wonder now. Yes, why not? Unusual combination. Holy and phoenix feather, 11 inches, nice and supple." Harry took the wand. He felt a sudden warmth in his fingers. He raised the wand above his head, supported it wishing down through the dusty air, and a stream of red and gold sparks shot from the end like a firework, throwing dancing spots of light onto the walls. Hagrid whooped and clapped, and Mr. Ollivander cried, "Oh, bravo! Yes, indeed! Oh, very good! Well, well, well! How curious! How very curious!" He put Harry's wand back into its box, wrapped it in brown paper, still muttering, "Curious, curious." "Sorry," said Harry, "but what's curious?" Mr. Ollivander fixed Harry with his pale stare. "I remember every wand I've ever sold, Mr. Potter. Every single one. It so happens that the phoenix whose tail feather is in your wand gave another feather. Just one other. It is very curious indeed that you should be destined for his wand when its brother gave you that scar." Harry swallowed. "Yes, 13.5 inches. You. Curious indeed how these things happen. The wand chooses the wand, remember. I think we must expect great things from you, Mr. Potter. After all, who must not be named did terrible things. Terrible, yes, but great." Harry shivered. He wasn't sure he liked Mr. Ollivander too much. He paid 7 galleons for his wand, and Mr. Ollivander bowed them for his shop. The late afternoon sun hung low in the sky as Harry and Hagrid made their way back down in Diagon Alley, back through the wall, back through the leaky cauldron, now empty. Harry didn't speak at all as they walked down the road. He didn't even notice how much people were gawping at them on the underground, laden as they were with all their funny shaped packages. With the sleepy snowy owl under Harry's lap, up another escalator on out into Paddington Station. Harry had only realized where they were when Hagrid tapped him on the shoulder. "Got time for a bite to eat before your train leaves?" he said. He bought Harry a hamburger, and they sat down on the plastic seats to eat them. Harry kept looking around. Everything looked so strange somehow. "You alright, Harry? You're very quiet." Harry wasn't sure he could explain. He had just had the best birthday of his life, and yet he chewed his hamburger, trying to find the words. "Everyone thinks I'm special," he said at last. "All those people in the leaky cauldron, Professor Quirrell, Mr. Ollivander, but I don't know anything about magic at all. How can they expect great things? I'm famous and I can't even remember what I'm famous for. I don't know what happened to the night my parents died." Hagrid leaned forwards across the table. Behind a wild beard and eyebrows, he wore a very kind smile. "Don't you worry, Harry. You'll learn fast enough. Everyone starts at the beginning at Hogwarts. You'll be just fine. Just be yourself. I know it's hard. You've been singled out, and that's always hard. But you'll have a great time at Hogwarts. I did. Still do, as a matter of fact." Hagrid helped Harry on the train that would take him back to Dursley's, then handed him an envelope. "Yeah, ticket for Hogwarts," he said. "1st of September, King's Cross. It's all on your ticket. Any problems with the Dursleys? Send me an owl. She'll know where to find me. See you soon, Harry." The train pulled out of the station. Harry wanted to watch Hagrid until he was out of sight. He rose in his seat, he brushed his nose against the window, but he blinked and Hagrid was gone. Okay, I will stop here. Tomorrow, oh, not tomorrow, but on the next video, I'll start from chapter 6, The Journey from Platform 9 and 3/4. I'll start from that page, and I hope you guys have enjoyed so much. If you have, then please subscribe. It's free and it helps me out very much. If you guys have seen my other videos, then consider smashing like on them. And I'll see you guys on the next video. See you guys on the next reading video. Goodbye.